So I was thinking about it today, and there are so many people who I know that are good, decent people, and then they get into a relationship with another reasonably good, decent person, and they're just toxic together. They can't seem to get along. They fight all the time. They're unhappy, but they stay together even though they're making each other miserable. And they're not bad people, but they just can't seem to get it together. And it's so common. I just can't help but think, why does this happen? I know for myself, I've been in a couple of relationships like that, so I understand that everyone else can see how bad things are. But when you're in the midst of it, you don't really know what to do. You don't know what's right. You think you're happy with this person, but you're not. Usually the issues are things that are blind spots. Something that you don't even know is there is ruining your relationship. And a lot of times those issues stem from childhood. I mean, we have a label for females who have daddy issues, but it's not just limited to females and their dads. Both men and women have issues with both their parents as adults, and that's every single person. When you're a child, that forms who you become, and it affects you the rest of your life. You can change and decide who you're going to be as an adult, but your childhood plays a huge role, and if you're not aware of that, then you have much less control over it than somebody who looks introspectively at themselves and says, okay, what are my issues? What happened to me as a kid that kind of fucked me up? And what can I do about it? Or maybe even see a counselor and just talk. Sometimes having a unbiased person who just listens and asks you the tough questions can be the most helpful. And these are people who are not your friends or family, because sometimes close friends or family won't say the things that need to be said, and they won't ask the question, the painful ones that you need to address. If you can be honest with yourself, that alone will solve so many problems. Because when you're honest with yourself and you can just be transparent, there's no ulterior motives. You can say, yeah, I have an issue with this, and that's what it is. And now that I know it, I can communicate it. And communication is huge. I mean, that's key in any relationship. When you can communicate, hey, I have an issue with this, and here's why. When you can get to that point, instead of just reacting, something happens and you blow up, you're screaming, shouting, or you get sad and cry, or you just don't talk at all, or you go and call up your ex. However it is that you react, if you can substitute that reaction with, I'm triggered, and this is why. I know it's why. It's because when I was a kid, my dad did this. When I was a kid, my grandmother who raised me used to always do this. And so now I hate it when people do. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever it is in your life, once you can identify that, then you can address it moving forward, and you can live the rest of your life without that trigger being an issue. Otherwise, that trigger is going to be an issue for you every day of your life, and you'll never get over it because you'll never understand, and you'll just be ignorant. And it's a really sad situation to see somebody who can't or won't deal with their past. Everybody's got a past. Everybody's had hard things. We've all felt bad emotions, and they shape how we react. When you understand that you're in a relationship with a good person, your partner's not bad, they're not evil, they're not out to get you. If they were, you wouldn't be in a relationship with them. You know they're a good person, you just forgot because you got triggered, because they said word for word the same line that your dad used to say when you got in trouble when you were a kid. And so then you're triggered and you don't like it, and you're like, oh, you sound like my dad now. And then that gets into a whole fight because you can't get along, and you forget that your partner is a good person and they actually care about you, and you could fall in love with this person, and maybe you already are. Nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, but good people generally act good and with the best interest of their partners in mind. I mean, there's definitely exceptions to that, but for the most part, they're not trying to piss you off because they forgot what your favorite thing to order was at that restaurant you go to every week. They just forgot because they're an adult living life and there's other things, and they didn't know that was so important to you, but now you threw a fit, so they know, and they remembered it, and so now you think, oh, the only way they'll remember is if I throw a fit, but really, you could have just said, hey, this is something that's really important to me. But you can't say that because you don't even know it's important to you. And that's why the relationship's toxic. These are just my thoughts. A lot of what I'm saying applies to myself as well. Some toxic relationships can be saved, and people can go on and live happy lives together. And then sometimes it's best just to cut ties with the person. And that's really for you to decide. Looking at your own life and at yourself, what's happened to you in your past and how you deal with those things, that's a great place to start. Then you'll start to understand what you really want, and if you really want to be with this person or not. If you're not really sure if you want to be with this person, then you need to look at yourself and ask, what do you even want? Do you know? If not, then you need to spend a little bit more time with yourself and get to know yourself. Because if you go through life not knowing what you really want, you're gonna have a very hard time being fulfilled.